Welcome to the Great Basin Fire Potential Briefing for Friday, August 15th. Today we will continue to have scattered thunderstorms across the eastern half of the Great Basin, which will be a mix of wet and dry with also some cloud cover this morning. We will have some drier thunderstorms further west into northeast Nevada and also at times into parts of southern Idaho. So these will be the most critical areas as these will have less moisture than areas further to the south and east. We'll also have some breezy winds over the southern areas of the Great Basin that are more in the 20 to 30 mile per hour range, which will continue through the weekend. Winds will pick up along the Sierra front along the weekend as well, with those gusty southwest winds, a little enhanced zephyr as we move through the weekend. But this will also push thunderstorm activity east as a trough moves into the west coast. So we will see those thunderstorms further east on Saturday. And then as the main trough moves in with the cold front, we will see thunderstorms reemerge over parts of Idaho back into northwest Nevada. And these will continue to be a mix of wet and dry. We even could see some spotty rainfall up in parts of the central Idaho mountains. Over the last 24 hours, we saw scattered thunderstorms again over many of the same areas where we'll see them today. Much of the precipitation was on the lighter side, just some pin drops of some possibly wetting rains within that region. But for the most part, we did have at least some higher humidity and some cloud cover with those thunderstorms. And here's the overall picture of the lightning. You can see the thunderstorms very active over northeast Nevada and across Utah, parts of southern Idaho and Wyoming. Probably not as much coverage today in northeast Nevada, but we'll still have those thunderstorms on the drier side. Looking at our Great Basin fire activity, we have several large fires across the region. Many of our priority fires are named here, our team fires, the Monroe, Beulah, up towards Rock. We did have 16 new fires reported for 921 acres, one of which was over on the Sierra front in western Nevada, with over 6,000 acres of growth on our large fires. Over the last 7 to 14 days, precipitation has mainly been focused of what we have seen up over central Idaho and far northwest Nevada. Some of these areas, this has been above normal for the time of year. Otherwise, very dry conditions. This does not include the thunderstorm activity we had yesterday, but prior to yesterday, very dry conditions across much of Nevada and Utah into southern Idaho and Wyoming. And this is reflected well in the ERC percentile point map. You can see widespread area of above the 97th percentile for ERCs across much of the southern 2/3 and eastern half of the Great Basin. Many other areas continue to increase significantly each day, and many areas above the 90th percentile. So definitely very critical conditions across the Great Basin. Looking at some of the 100-hour fuel moistures in some of the areas where we have our large fires. Up on the Payette, 100-hour fuel moistures are well below normal, kind of near or just above record lows for the time of year, but there will be some increase. You can see by the green line there as we see that cold front move in this weekend with some higher humidities and possibly even some wetting rains. So we'll see how that plays out. Could be pretty spotty still, so don't really hang your hat too much on that significant increase, but we'll see how that works out. And then over on the Uintas, again, seeing those near record low 100-hour fuel moisture, but we will see that tick upwards just for a couple of days before drier weather returns much of next week. Here's a look at our satellite loop from this morning. You can see still the cloud cover over the eastern half of Utah and towards Monroe and up towards the Beulah fires. So those will see similar conditions to what we saw yesterday. Also some cloud cover up towards central Idaho. Otherwise, generally sunny skies across the Great Basin, and we'll see those thunderstorms reemerge this afternoon with that cloud cover and that lightning. Here's a smoke forecast for the next couple of days. No major changes from what we've been seeing, just expecting our large fires to become active, especially up in Idaho, southwest and central Idaho. Those fires should be active in on the drier side of the basin. Probably not as much activity the next couple of days in Utah with our large fires, but that will be changing as we get later in the weekend and next week. So looking at our weather pattern for today, the main trough along the west coast, again, similar kind of conditions to what we saw yesterday. We do have a couple areas of high risk for lightning from northeast Nevada into southern and eastern Idaho, where we do expect most of that lightning coverage to be either on the drier side or a mix of wet and dry, where our fuels are still very critical and where we'll likely see a little bit more potential for large fire, either new ignitions or new growth on fires as well. Otherwise, again, we'll have somewhat tapered conditions in Utah with some of that moisture lingering. Looking at our transport winds, you can see the gusty winds over the southern areas of the Great Basin. Again, mostly in that 20 to 30 mile per hour range, not really red flag red or high risk worthy, but still breezy and could impact conditions on some fires in that region. Otherwise, some breezy winds on the Salmon Chalice and very dry conditions across much of Nevada with those single digit and low teen RHs getting into western Utah. So northwest Utah will be on the drier side of Utah, and then anywhere from the Central Mountains eastward, we'll see those higher humidities again today, as well as up towards Wyoming. Otherwise, dry conditions up in Idaho. So again, that's Idaho and Nevada, really the main concerns where the lightning will be an issue today. Temperatures near normal across the region. Again, you can see where those thunderstorms will be highlighted today. Could see a couple strikes in the Sierra, but for the most part, generally near the crest. As we move into tomorrow, we will see still generally dry conditions, enough potential for thunderstorms still, so not totally bone dry yet. But you can see the swath of moisture moving in with the front from the west, still mainly remaining in the Pacific Northwest and northern Idaho. So generally moderate fire potential across the region, still a bit lower for another day or so in the Utah mountains where we'll see a little bit higher humidity. Transport winds, you can see really very similar to what we'll see today with those gusty winds over southern areas of the Great Basin, gusty outflow winds, the main threat with lightning. And then we will see the Zephyr enhance a little bit more tomorrow along the Sierra front with those breezy west winds. Otherwise, relative humidity still remaining dry over the western areas and up north. A little bit humidity starting to increase in parts of the Payette, so we might see that start on Saturday. Might not get all the way towards the rock fire, but we might see those increases begin on Saturday, and then still another day of higher humidity in the central Utah mountains. Temperatures will drop down a couple of degrees on Saturday, and then lightning activity mainly across Idaho, Wyoming, and into the northern part of Utah. So we'll be watching some of these areas in Idaho and Wyoming for any potential for high risk. Right now, just kind of keeping an eye on it. And you can see the main moisture back west in Oregon. As we move into Sunday and the trough really starts to push eastward, this is where the moisture will move into central and southwest Idaho. So you can see the significant fire potential will drop down a bit with those higher humidities and slightly cooler temperatures. We will see additional thunderstorms, so there will be lightning for possible new ignitions, but we also could see some areas of wetting rains as well. Otherwise, much drier conditions over the southern and eastern half of the Great Basin, so we will start to see that drying trend begin on Sunday. Breezy winds Sunday continue over southern areas yet again, and then you can see the swath from Wyoming across Idaho and northwest and western Nevada for that potential for gusty outflow winds with those thunderstorms. You can also see that higher humidity in central Idaho and into southwest Idaho, so that will at least be some good news temporarily, but still could see some new ignitions with the lightning, but at least some higher humidities. Otherwise, we'll see the drying trend down south. So Utah, Sunday will be the first day where relative humidity will really start dropping near our large fires. Temperatures, this will be our coolest day, most likely on Sunday across the region with temperatures below normal in many areas. And then you can see the moisture, the more significant moisture remains in Oregon, but it could clip northwest Nevada, parts of southwest or central Idaho with areas of potential wetting rains with some of these thunderstorms. So we'll be watching that. So there is at least a little bit of potential up north for some areas of wetting rains, at least on Sunday. 3-day precipitation, you can see obviously the next couple days in Utah, we'll see those scattered thunderstorms with some chances of wetting rains, but again, pretty spotty still. And then up into central Idaho, that potential as we go into the weekend. Otherwise, once we go into next week, this is where the drying trend really starts to emerge. We'll see warmer and drier conditions as the ridge builds in from the west. So we will see significant fire potential start to return to moderate starting Sunday or Monday in many areas. And then going into Tuesday and Wednesday, we will see a mostly moderate fire potential in all areas. We will start to see some moisture try to creep up as the Four Corners high starts to build going towards mid to late next week. So we could see a return of thunderstorms in the far south or an increase in humidity starting mid to late week. So we'll keep an eye on this. The models haven't been super consistent, especially in the longer term. So this push of moisture could be delayed a day or so, or it could be a day or so earlier. So we'll be watching that. But right now it's looking like warmer and drier with lighter winds going into at least the first half of next week. So expect an increase in our fire activity on our large fires with that dryness. Looking at the 7-day total precipitation, again, not much different than the 3-day, with much of everything happening through this weekend. And then the 8 to 14-day outlook, taking us from August 22nd through the 28th, shows warm above normal temperatures, possible above normal precipitation going into later next week and the weekend as that moisture starts to return from the south. But we'll continue watching that to see how likely that scenario is. But hopefully some good news for Utah, but something to continue to watch. That concludes our webcast for today. Check back tomorrow for the latest updates.